Next, we have our third thought leadership spotlight of the day, which is titled The Impact of the Aging Population and What HR Should Do About It. Aging working population. I think they sent the gray-haired guy out to do this, and I guess we're all bring our own kind of diversity, so I don't mind. In this presentation, we'll explore how demographic trends like population growth, population aging, migration, and urbanization have important implications for companies. Please welcome to the stage Vijay Swaminathan. He's the CEO of Draup, which is an enterprise decision-making platform for global chief experience leaders in sales and talent domains, and you'll learn a lot from him. Vijay, take it away.
It's a great privilege to be here. It is sort of an interesting session. I'm probably separating you from wine session, and I'll try to make it as interesting as possible. The objective of today's meeting is a little bit to talk about a different type of a labor strategy. As Steve mentioned, my name is Vijay, and I lead an AI platform called Draup. We actually specialize in bringing unique data sets to develop labor market stories and talent intelligence stories, supporting workforce planning and recruitment. What we are going to talk about is the impact of aging from a labor standpoint and how we can actually use that to our collective advantage. We are probably in the history of about 100 years of labor market. We're at a very unique state where we are progressively and rapidly reducing distance bias when it comes to work. Many of you will be familiar with how the modern work is evolving and hybrid work is evolving. And one of the newest concepts within that is the metaverse, where we can actually leverage our digital avatars to participate in complex work agile cycle. Say, for example, you are building a digital marketing strategy, right? You can use specialists focused on content development in very specific segment just for limited time and put together the digital marketing strategy in a seamless digital way. And similarly, if you are building a software product, you can bring in certain security specialists at the right moment just for a limited time and really have an integrated labor deliverable. And at this stage, what we actually want to bring it to your attention is you may be excited about talking about early career talent, Gen Z talent, and all that, which is all important. But a big part of your talent asset from a labor market standpoint is aging workforce and how you can take advantage of that. There are a number of experiments where aging workforce of an organization has yielded lot more empathy, lot more connection to customers, a lot more context in executing the project deliverables. Why do we need this to be considered right now? What is the reason? There's a couple of reasons. One, there is no way to escape aging. Even the Silicon Valley labs may think that they can, but we really, as a society, we are aging, especially the Western countries are aging faster. It doesn't mean the Eastern countries are not, they're just a little bit different in different slopes. Our estimates actually, which is based on the UN population model, is from about 30% of the population in USA and Canada will be above 60 years by 2050. And thanks to the sound health strategies that we have put in place, we also live longer and the life expectancy have gone up. And more importantly, this is a very important talent that which can be used. One of the change in mindset that we have to seek is really somehow we have told ourselves that aging population perhaps is not very productive and cannot handle technology, right? And I think there is a number of studies that are coming out where both those components are actually wrong. Because if you look at the last 20 years of exposure of technology since Y2K, have been phenomenal exposure to technology in the last 2 decades. And so you kind of have to view the current aging population with a different mindset than that what you viewed, say, in the late 90s or even early 2000. And why do we need to do that? Why do we need to make the aging population really work? We did some modeling to say that when we looked at the United States and also EMEA, which stands for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, when we looked at the digital technology talent supply-demand gap, we currently model a gap of about 4.2 million resources. That means supply is shorter than the demand. And that is expected to grow to a massive gap of about 24.9 million people. Why such a big gap is coming in? One is our intrinsic trust in technology has dramatically increased. Imagine yourselves walking into a Walmart or a Lowe's type of store. You don't hesitate to go near a kiosk and inquire that from a pricing standpoint or from a merchandising standpoint. Like just 10 years ago, your mind and eyes would have searched for a human being to ask such questions. Today, if you see a technology element, you don't hesitate. So the overall conclusion is our trust in technology has increased, and also AI has really eating the world in a different way, where the data elements are really helping us, whether it is purchasing decisions, supply chain decision, experience-driven decisions. AI is beginning to really become foundationally robust and also influencing our lives. As a result, many companies have piloted successful, what we call as the digital intentions. At Draup, we track about 45,000 digital intentions, be it from a core business standpoint or from the corporate segment standpoint. All this means we need more people, we need more knowledge workers who can make this happen. So leaving out aging workforce population and trying to fill that through only early career talent may not be the sound strategy for us to fill the gap. The other interesting aspect is there is also one study came from the Aging Institute in 2021, which is a fascinating study in our opinion, because we all along thought that the productivity of folks who are a little bit older, it actually drops as you approach closer to, say, 55 plus. And that's actually proven not true, especially in cases where the work is specialist-related work or professional work, or even very interesting customer service work. Now, the only area where they have seen productivity drop is when they do very task-based basic work. And that is also theorized from a standpoint of perhaps the motivation kind of recedes as they approach closer to more retirement age. And that is not necessarily a sign of capability. It is more a sign of intent that things are slowing down from a planning standpoint, and there is a drop in productivity there. So from a knowledge work standpoint and a task work standpoint, the aging work population seem to behave very differently. And these are proven. There are a number of studies. This is one example of such study. When we conducted some targeted studies to understand how can we segregate this data a little bit deeper to understand how companies can take advantage of it. Now, what we found was we clustered across multiple categories, subcategories, people who are about to retire, people who have retired but engaged in, say, gig work, people who have, you're interested in doing a little bit of part-time work after retirement. So we talked to a number of them. And what we found was they have collected most of the people who are in the knowledge economy, especially in the last 10 to 15 years. have collected a lot of multiple skills, and also their agility to learn newer skills have been really awesome. And one of the important thing that almost for different generations go through different sentiments when it comes to labor expectations. For example, there are studies that shows that the people who actually graduated around depression times or recession times, they attach more importance to non-monetary benefits in terms of what they want to do in life. That's a very fascinating study. So they looked at last close to 40, 50 years and looked at people who graduated around recession time and said, like, what is their drive? What do they value from a work standpoint? And we find that the aging population that we interacted to looked at sought for more consistency with customers and sought for more empathy with in their outcomes. And empathy is a big value. It takes a little bit of time. It's not about whether one is empathetic or not. It is a process that we go through to reach there. One of the interesting studies that we came across is, it was actually a university study that was conducted to really understand, like, how can empathy drive product decisions, right? So they simply divided into two groups to really target what type of better flavors can we bring out for, say, pregnant women, right? What kind of flavors for potato chips they will really like. And what they did was they classified the study into two groups. One group, primarily they said, use analytical techniques, use techniques to be logical, and you come up with design. And another group, they said, like, practice more empathy, just maybe use techniques like close your eyes and see what the end customer, in this case pregnant women, would go through and come up with flavors. And after about 6 months of study, they found that the group that practiced the empathy really came out better designs than the group that practiced very analytical techniques of logical thinking and new age techniques to come up with interesting flavors. And this is a study that shows the power of empathy. And here is a group that already has that built in over a great number of years of experience. And another interesting thing that I'm personally super excited about it is the technology elements as also dramatically changing. Like, what I mean by that is software development is not as complex as it was, say, 15 years ago. Now, if you look at the concepts such as citizens development, or looking at RPA development, which is a robotic process automation development, these are largely process-driven with a drag and drop interface. So if you have deeper process knowledge, these are components where you can actually reduce the IT's workload or software team's workload and use talent that are closer to re-engineering, closer to, say, Six Sigma type of talent, and train them on these type of initiatives. Now, in the last 2 to 3 years especially, you have initiatives such as products such as UiPath or Automation Anywhere that actually has stepped in and automated a very number of processes. Now, for example, if you are looking at automating like an accounts payable process, an accounts receivable process, this is a process where you need to know you need to build a lot of conditions, corrections, and flag all the issues around, where am I going out of bound, and where do I need to build my right checks and balances. And in that type of a journey, you have to have a view of establishing long-term processes. And that is where a lot of this talent can be accelerated in getting reskilled in whether it is a Power BI platform or a UiPath or an Automation Anywhere type of platform. We got to change our mindset towards this workforce segment that can give you, that can reduce your supply-demand gap by 30 to 35%. That is kind of an interesting study that we looked at. And a very number of organizations are attempting to do a lot of great things with this talent pool. One of the important things that we always look at is how do we look at some of this talent from a boomerang perspective, like network, people who have somehow worked in your organization, and can we actually take them, they have left, they might have left, can we now trace them and try and see how to bring back perhaps in a different IT-enabled role or digital-enabled role. That's one theme that kind of came out quite a bit. And another important aspect is many companies are attempting to kind of relook at job descriptions from a standpoint of how these job descriptions can potentially be reimagined in the current age. So if you look at the primary instrument through which you engage with the labor market, is one of the instruments is actually your job descriptions. Many companies have outdated version of what it would take to execute certain things, right? It is very common to see there will be like a cloud support engineer with a very, very large experience that is not required, because cloud support certification itself is only about 4 to 5 months, and you have, you don't need like 7 years of experience, for example, on that stack. So how do we relook at our workloads from a standpoint of automation, from a standpoint of process reengineering, and from a standpoint of digital tech stack that can actually accelerate your digital priorities, and where you may not need a very complex talent, or you may have a need where advanced experienced talent can step in and deliver that in a seamless way. And this is re-examining your digital workloads can be a very powerful priority to look through, to take full advantage of this labor pool. Now, one other important component that we did was, okay, perhaps we cannot look at aging population as one like one unit, like monolithic entity, right? We have to look at aging population as people who are closer to retirement. What are the things that they can do? People who have, who have retired and gone, perhaps we can bring back some of them through this metaverse type of a concept, right? Then you have bridge employees who may actually could have changed career, could be working on other aspects that they didn't have the opportunity to work because now the digital learning has picked up. You have gig employees. Even though we have been talking about gig employees for a long period of time, we have truly not taken advantage of this type of workforce. But with acceleration and the great readjustment of the workforce, we may begin to see that. We talked to a few of those folks. And then people who truly want to become entrepreneurs, due to various reasons, they couldn't do it earlier. Now they are pursuing, and they have a lot more a connection with the core organizations that they have been part of, and how do we truly bring them into a continuous stream of work. What we find was different people offer different strengths, and the people who are doing gig employment within tech, they have caught up on multiple technologies, and they've been huge self-learners. One thing that has worked in their favor is certain tools like Python have become easier to truly learn, and compared to say 15 years back. So they have been quite ahead in terms of what they can deliver. And certain self-employed folks, they are a little bit into re-engineering type of work, process re-engineering, process adoption, automation type of work. And phased retirees, there is a lot of interest in leaving some sort of a legacy. That means being part of a large implementation of a ERP or a Workday type of systems, where they can actually bring in a lot of their knowledge, codify that knowledge, bring it to fruition. And then you have different strengths that you can expect out of different categories of aging workforce. So understanding that and mapping that to your digital initiatives can be extremely valuable to say, like, this is how I'm going to go after different segments of aging workforce. And finally, when you look at aging population, it is always important to map out which initiatives are gaining traction within whether it is your core engineering group or core support functions, and then start looking at it like, where am I going to need tool-specific knowledge? Where am I going to need foundational technological type of help? And where am I going to need automation, process codification type of knowledge? And map out the entire organization through AI logics and through automation logics. And by doing that, what you are doing, what you can help your organization go through is a phenomenon of how to have a truly inclusive workforce. Because today it is not just about, obviously you do need early career talent, mid-career talent, but late career talent can actually bring in certain discipline and certain inclusivity. And with that, the processes such as intergenerational communication and intergenerational innovation, all those becomes very, very important. But such a labor strategy can mean that you can execute far more digital initiatives at a cost optimal, super efficient manner. And then you actually can go and seek the right type of talent for your digital initiatives that can't be executed, or the gap between supply and demand can progressively come down. And in closing, one of the important things that we have to remember is sometimes we tell certain stories about ourselves, about others, and we try to kind of continue in that journey. The objective of this presentation or this research is really to take a pause and say, like, why can't technology be done by aging workforce population? Why do we believe like that? How do we change that opinion? How do we truly bring in a change? And there are a lot of tools, some of that I have narrated throughout this conversation, that can be readily picked up in a reskilling journey of, say, 2 to 6 months, or even faster than that these days. And then we can build world-class products, highly empathetic to customers, and one that can give consistent experience to your customers about your company. With that, the time that is given for me is over, and I sincerely thank you for this particular opportunity to present this. The slides can be picked up from our booth. There is a QR code. If you scan that, all these slides will be delivered to you, and we'll also deliver the full study on this. Thank you for this brilliant opportunity, and thanks for your patience in listening to this summary of this research. Thank you.